You are listening to Hillary Topper on Air, the small business podcast to help you grow both personally and professionally. And now, here's your host, Hillary Topper.
Welcome to Hillary Topper on Air, the Endurance Sports Edition. This podcast brings you insights from leaders, influencers, and creators from across the globe. I'm your host, Hillary Topper, and today we have a very special guest who plays a pivotal role in one of the most challenging and rewarding events in the triathlon community on Long Island. Joining us is Merle McDonald Aaron, the race director of the Robert J. Aaron Memorial Mighty Montauk Triathlon. Merle, welcome to the show.
Thank you so much for having me. It's an honor to be on with you.
Thank you. So share with us the inspiration behind the Robert J. Aaron Memorial Mighty Montauk Triathlon and its impact on the Montauk community.
It started way back in 1982. My late husband, Robert Aaron, who the race is now named after, he was a triathlete. And back then, the Mighty Hamptons had just started. It was their first year, and he participated in the Mighty Hamptons. And he was intrigued by it. And he figured it was a great thing to do to bring a triathlon into Montauk in back then what was called the shoulder season. So he started a triathlon, and it has been going ever since. I mean,
It's amazing.
Back then, he was a sort of eccentric kind of guy. He figured that instead of having a swim, bike, run, he figured the guys can bike and then swim because they would need to cool down after the swim, and then they do the run. So he did his own thing back then. And of course, this was kind of before USAT, so there were no sanctions, there were no set fast rule as to what to do. So he did his own thing. But then, after time, things changed around, and now we have a traditional triathlon.
Awesome. So tell us about Robert. So you had mentioned to me when we had a conversation earlier that he passed from pancreatic cancer. Can you talk a little bit about that?
Yeah. He was diagnosed in 2000. He was just 58 years old at the time when he was diagnosed. He was actually just given 3 months because it was stage 4 when he was diagnosed. And well, of course, everything was in a panic. And we were fortunate back then, there was a clinical trial that had just started at the place, I can't remember, the hospital in New Jersey. It was starting with the immune therapy. And he was actually the last one to get in to that trial. And he had some really good results from the trial, and he was doing great. Unfortunately, in the midst of it, he contracted pneumonia. And because of that, they had to stop the trial. After that, when he recovered from the pneumonia, he started his chemo. And from what the oncologist said, maybe as a result of the immune therapy that he had and the chemo, his cancer went into remission. So instead of the 3 months, we actually got 2 years. Yeah, he survived. It was 2 years and 14 days.
And so many people have pancreatic cancer, and we talked about that. Can you talk about how you brought this? You continued the race in his memory. Talk a little bit about that and how you're raising money now for pancreatic cancer.
Sure. So when he was diagnosed, of course, I had no idea what to expect. I knew nothing about it. Cancer had never, thank God, had never touched my family. So it was like a real shock. So I started researching I would be online on that computer sometimes 3, 4 o'clock in the morning. I would just be looking and looking. And back then in 2000, there wasn't that much out there. And I came across the Lustgarten Foundation in my searches, and I realized that they were kind of top of the class at the time in terms of pancreatic cancer. And I figured what I was going through, I didn't want anybody else to go through that as much as I could. So I figured whatever I could do in my own way to kind of help somebody else who might be in the position that I was in, so that when they look out there would be something, there would be some hope that their loved one will not have the 3 months that the doctors give them. And that's my passion behind it. And that's why I do what I do. And I am trying the best as I can to continue as long as I can. So to raise funds for pancreatic cancer research.
It's beautiful what you're doing. Now, talk to us a little bit about the Mighty Montauk Triathlon and how it stands out from other triathlons around the country.
I like to think of it, it's like a real hometown type of race. As one of my triathletes said to me, this is not a triathlon, this is a family reunion, because we have had some of the same triathletes going through every age group. I mean, you saw them when they were young with long hair and black hair, and now they are balding and gray, and they're still coming,
It's awesome.
So it's definitely a family reunion. We are, as I said, my husband was kind of eccentric. He would make up his own signs, and he would put, 5 miles, you're tired by now, something like that, And I have tried over the years to kind of keep that for that family feel, that hometown feel. I tell people, if you're coming to this race expecting to be the top of the line triathlete with all the time into the second, maybe this may not be the right fit for you, because we like to have fun. We are competitive. Yes, we have some great triathletes. We have athletes who have done Ironman, Kona, and done very well in their age group. So we have competitive triathletes. But we also have the triathletes who come out to have fun, to finish the race, to have a great post-race party. That's what we like.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
Now, tell us a little bit about the triathlon. So is it a sprint? Is it Olympic? Is it both?
Well, traditionally, it was always a full Olympic. Last year, 2 years ago, we added an aqua bike because, as I said, some of the triathletes are now aging out. And we figured the knees are giving out. So, okay, you can do the swim and the bike and then sit and watch the young guys. So we added an aqua bike. And for the first time last year, I had some of my triathletes who were behind me for the longest while put on a sprint. So I finally added a sprint.
That's great.
So as of this year, we have the sprint, aqua bike, and the Olympic. So you can pick whatever distance you want, and you're free to come in. Yes.
And the triathlon is very challenging. Could you talk about the hills in Montauk?
Okay, so those who are familiar with Montauk, the bike goes up to the lighthouse. Now we know that's a challenging hill, right? So it's a 20-mile bike. But the thing is, you go up the hill and then you come down, and when you go East Lake Drive is gorgeous. And you have those little gentle rolling hills that your legs get time to recover from the hill. And then on the run, we have one section of the run that's actually called Murder Hill. Okay, yeah, it's pretty steep. And,
Wow.
and what is great about it, it's you go down and you go around a cul-de-sac and come back up. So the guys who are coming up that hill, watching the guys going down and saying, okay, you don't know what you're in for, But other than that, the course is beautiful because Montauk is a beautiful
It is
hamlet.
beautiful.
It's gorgeous. So there is something to see in every part of the race. So
What's funny about Montauk is that because it's a beach community, you would think it would be flat.
No, it's not. It's
You know,
not. And then the other thing we have is the winds, because Montauk mean land of many winds. So if by chance you have a windy day, I mean, wind comes at you from every direction. So
oof.
it is challenging, but that's part of it. I mean, you don't come into a triathlon and expect to just ride along a savannah, you need a challenge. So,
That's true. Okay. Now, I know that safety is crucial for any event like this. How do you ensure that the safety of participants during the swim, bike, and run portions?
okay, so the East Hampton Ocean Rescue, they are my savior. They show up from the day before, they set my course up for me, and race morning, they are there, out in full underwater. I mean, anywhere you turn, there is a boat, there is a surfboard, there might be a kayak, they are out there protecting me. And the East Hampton Town Police, they are also on board with us. I mean, as I said, this race, it's part of the community. It's been part of the town for 40 plus years. So I have no issues when it comes to the police being there to make sure everybody is safe. And thank God it has been.
That's awesome. Now, as you and I both know, preparing for a triathlon is no small feat. What advice would you give to first-time participants aiming to tackle the Mighty Montauk?
Be prepared. Get your training in. And if it's possible that you can even come out before and ride the course, I know a lot of guys do that. So you go over. So when you come out to the race, you are prepared. And I've spoken to a lot of first timers who panic on the day and say, I don't know. And I tell them the same thing. Listen, you're trained, you're ready. You're not here perhaps to come first, to win the first time you're out, but at least you would have the experience and enjoy it. That's the main thing. Have fun. And then next year you can come back and you can be more competitive if you want. But for this year, enjoy the ride. Enjoy it. So yeah.
Absolutely. That's great advice. Thank you. All right. So before we move on, I want to say I'm so appreciative of our sponsor and must take the time out to thank them. Special thanks to PlayTry, Swim, Bike, Run, a retail and online bike shop and multi-sport specialist. Now back to you, Merle. So I know you also have a hotel in Montauk. Can you tell us a little bit about this hotel?
Yeah, it's a motel. It's called the Harborside Motel.
Okay.
We are in the harbor section of Montauk. It's a family type motel. We have swimming pool, tennis, we have pickleball, we have volleyball. So it's very family oriented. And we cater, since we're in the harbor, we cater to a lot of the local, recreational fishermen who come from all over to fish in Montauk. So we are where they will come. A lot of them come here over the years. And we've had it's just like the race, it's generational. So we have the families who would come and now their kids are married and they're coming with their kids. So
that's so nice.
We are here. We like that. We like that family feel. So yeah, it's
that's awesome.
On Westlake Drive in the harbor section of Montauk.
And I know, Montauk is a destination with distinct seasons. How do you keep your motel engaging for guests throughout the year, especially during peak season?
Well, peak season, Montauk sells itself because the people who come, especially during the summertime, they are coming for the beaches, they are coming, the swimming pool, they are coming, and the new generation are coming to the clubs. So you keep your rates affordable, so your base, your core customers keep coming back, so you don't have to worry too much about the fluctuations in who's coming or who's not coming because you have a base. And I think that's one of the things that has been part of the success of the motel over the years. Just keep it family friendly and affordable. And that's the main thing. In the fall, our core business is the fishermen. I mean, they come from Delaware, Florida, Maine. They come from all over. But Montauk is the fishing capital of New York. So they come to Montauk.
Wow.
And we accommodate them here. So we have the summer people and we have the fall people. We close in the winter because there's nothing in Montauk. There are no clubs, there's no beach, there's no fishing, so we're closed.
Time to go skiing.
Yeah. I'll go somewhere really warm.
We'll go somewhere really warm, right? Exactly. Now, I wanted to ask you about the pandemic because the pandemic brought an unprecedented challenge to the hospitality industry. How did your motel adapt, and what changes do you think are here to stay?
You know, this is funny. The pandemic did not in any way hamper the business at the Harborside.
That's awesome.
It didn't. As a matter of fact, it was unbelievable. I mean, you just couldn't keep up during the pandemic because I think a lot of people felt coming to Montauk was a safe haven away from the city. So they came. We did a lot of the health protocols. We made sure rooms were sanitized between guests. I had all the sanitizer machines and the ultraviolet lights that I used in the rooms. So we did all of that. And one of the other things we had to push back our check-in times so that the housekeeping staff had more time in between checkouts and check-in to make sure rooms were fully sanitized. And we went through the pandemic unscathed, most likely. Yeah.
Wow.
And the funny part about it is that I tell people the tennis court and the pickleball court never had more usage than during the pandemic. People were lining up to play tennis and pickleball during the pandemic. That's not happening now. That's over.
That's something. Wow. Yeah. Thank you for sharing that. So getting back to the RJA Memorial Montauk Triathlon, can you give us information on the date, the time, how to sign up, and all of that?
Sure. It's going to be on June 8th. The registration is on runsignup.com. Our website, you can also connect through the website to the registration site, which is mightymontauk.com. The race starts Saturday morning at 7:30 a.m. Transition opens at 6. We have packet pickup at the Harborside from 10 a.m. to 10 p.m. on the 7th. So that's how that goes. And what else is there? Yeah, basically, yeah. So
terrific. Well, thank you so much for sharing this information with us and our listeners. I really appreciate you taking the time out and being on the show. I also want to thank our sponsors once more, Play Try, Swim Bike Run, a retail bike shop and multi-sport specialist. For more information, visit playtrystore.com. And I'd also like to thank you, our listeners, for tuning in each week. If you want more information on this show or any other show, visit us at atriathletesdiary.com, or you can find us on Spotify, iTunes, Apple Podcasts, Google Play, Amazon Alexa, you name it, we're out there. Have a great week, and we'll see you next time.